right, it's time for another changelog rundown. I've missed doing a video for the last several releases, so we're going to do 3 releases in one video. Lucky you guys. uh, every release contains tons of bug fixes, crash fixes, small improvements, and that is in very large part thanks to everyone in the community who's reporting either on GitHub or joining our Discord and reporting. That is going a very long way in making Hammer a more polished and more fun to use piece of software. So thank you very much to everyone who's doing that and participating. So 3.4.0 was the first release that I did in this 3 release chunk. And security is very important to me. As some of you might know, one of my other projects is SnapSafe, which is a very high security camera photo taking app for both Android and iOS. This is oriented towards securing your photos in the most hostile cybersecurity environments that you could imagine your phone being in. And I bring this up because although Hammer is not a security oriented application, data privacy and security is still important, and we should build with it in mind. So 3.4.0 pretty much only focused on hardening the security of the sync server. The main improvement, although there were quite a few smaller ones, is that the cryptographic keys that are used to encrypt user data were overhauled. It's now possible for server admins to rotate the cryptographic keys, which is an important piece of security hygiene. And the keys are also stored more securely. So if a server does get compromised by an attacker, they might steal the database, but they're much less likely now to steal the key so that they can actually decrypt the data. This was a really big, scary change because screwing this up could have actually lost user data on Hammer.inc and any other sync servers out there. So that's pretty much all this release focused on. Release 3.5.0 was the client side side of this. So I worked on security hardening the client. By default, the client is pretty secure anyway. It doesn't really reach out and do stuff it's not supposed to do. But the one area that could be dangerous is if you or you connected to someone else's sync server and their server was malicious, maybe it could get the client to do something it's not supposed to do. So this release locked that down. If the server somehow tries to trick the client into reading or writing outside of the project directory, the client will just refuse now. That's just not allowed. The other thing that I did is I have to store auth tokens when you're communicating with a sync server, and those are now encrypted at rest and they're no longer stored in the project directory. So again, they would be much harder to steal for an attacker. This release actually had some fun stuff in it though, and let me show that. So we have this export feature. So when you're done writing or you just want to give a draft to a beta reader or someone, you can go in the project home here, you can go to export story, and we have a bunch of export formats. I included a new help dialog to explain why each format is important and what you might use it for. And the new format is RTF, rich text format. This is a pretty old format and it is readable by just about every text editor out there, and it's actually an editable format, which is obviously nice for some use cases. So you can just select that, click export to wherever you want to export it, and that's it. So that's a nice feature. I also worked on the import feature, which is the reverse of this. So when you create a project now, there's an import button, and that can now accept either Markdown or RTF. And so let's select that this RTF file. And you'll see this is a preview of what scenes are going to be created, and it looks like it's going to import all of Alice in Wonderland, that's what this PG-11 file is, as one scene, which would be terrible. So there's a couple different options for splitting into scenes. So let's go to this pattern option. This is a default regular expression, which if you know what these are, you can edit it for your book, but this is a pretty good best effort for splitting up lots of books that you might have. And you can see now it recognizes all the different chapters, and if I click import, it will actually create a new project with all of those chapters. And this might be good too, is each chapter probably shouldn't be a single scene, so you can click create chapter groups and you'll still only get one scene, but it'll be under a group, so then you can decompose the scene into smaller scenes. One last thing in 3.5.0 is, let's see, do we have any drafts here? No. Let's save a draft. New draft. And then we'll make some changes. Hello there, and we'll delete this word over here. But importantly, we're going to take this whole paragraph and move it down here. We'll save. So if you go to View Drafts and you click Open, this is a comparison of the old draft versus the current working copy. So you'll see words that were deleted are in red, words that were added are in green, and the new thing I've added is this. Blue shows when an entire section has been moved. So you know this wasn't actually deleted. You can go find where it was. So yeah, I think that's a little bit of a nicer experience there. Uh, let's see, I think that wraps up 3.5.0. The very recently released 3.6.0 focuses a bit on the project selection screen here. We have a new feature where you can tag your projects. And so if you have a lot of projects here, it might get hard to organize them. So you can now search by tags. And that works just as all the other tag searches in the application do. And you can click, works the same as every other place in the app. And if you go into a project, you go into that project settings, you have this new area where you can add more. Yeah, pretty simple. Works the way all the rest of the tags do. The bigger feature is this new idea tab. So personally, I have a list in a different notes application where I keep ideas for short stories or new books or whatever. And if I'm just walking around and I have some brainstorm, like, oh, that's a neat little idea I want to explore, I add to that list. But I really want Hammer to be the central location for everything that I do writing. So this is a new place where you can come in here, you can just create a new uh, let's see, and that'll be a short story idea. So there you go. And then, some weekend, I'm like, oh, I really want to write a short story. I come into my ideas folder and I go in and I say, yeah, this is the one. And I can just create a project right from that. And then we'll see, where is it? Here we are. And in the notes, you'll have whatever was in that original idea doc is now here as the first note. And other than that, it's an empty project. You can give them names and you'll get a better name up here, but that's about it. The last feature that 3.6 brought, the last big feature anyway, is in the scene tree. So this here is known as the scene tree because it's this nested directory of scenes. And if you have a lot of scenes, normally if you want to move them, you would just drag like this. But if you have a whole lot of scenes, that might be very difficult. So you can now right click, go to move to, and there's this dialog where you can select where you want to move it to, tell it what position you want in the new scene. So we'll move it there, make it the first scene, and there it moved. So that should be make things easier for very large projects. And I think that wraps it up. My focus for the next bit is going to continue to be on stabilization, just fixing more bugs, not implementing lots of new features. And I'm starting to make a tutorial series of videos so that people understand how it works. And I'm going to try to get the word out a little bit about Hammer so more people know it exists. One last thing is I'd love to get more help localizing Hammer. So if you speak any of our main languages that we support and are interested, message me on Discord or drop me a line in GitHub and we can work that out. Thanks.